Nobody wants to get arrested, but if loving these costumes is a crime, then lock me up and throw away the key. Preferably with Sonya and Cassie. Today's video is all about costumes that make you say, okay, the developers were just horny. Because there's just no other explanation. Listen, Melina is always gooner bait, but holy elder gods, what is happening here? They even put her on Playboy magazine for Pete's sake. I'm not even joking about that. Then you have characters that are normally not sexualized, but the developers just said, how about this? Does it make any sense for the character? Nope, but it looks hot, and put her shoe size on screen while you're at it. Now, recent Mortal Kombat games are trying to tone down the horny, which makes it more hilarious to look back and see how gooner the developers used to be. But hey, I'm not complaining about it, because like I said on Twitter, video game characters are not real. So when you make a sexy costume, nobody gets hurt. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which gooner costume is your favorite? I promise you won't go to horny jail this one time, okay? For Pete's sake, look what Capcom is doing. That's an official Street Fighter magazine, and they're just going all out without any shame whatsoever. Alright everyone, real quick, do me a favor and leave a like down below if you want the gooner costumes to come back in Mortal Kombat 13, at least as an option, because I definitely do. Then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Let's try and get 500,000 subscribers before the middle of this year, okay? Let's make it happen. And alright everyone, without any further ado, let's begin. Obviously, we have to start with the very first Mortal Kombat game, which isn't very offensive. Yes, Sonya's wearing a thong outside of her yoga pants, but people just dressed that way back then, so you can't even argue why is she wearing that, because, well, women did dress that way back in the day. Well, at least when going to the gym and stuff, and Sonya Blade's gonna be exercising while beating your butt, so it makes sense she would dress appropriately. Then next up is Mortal Kombat 2, where Sonya was mysteriously missing, so instead we got two new women, Kitana and Melina, neither of which are very sexualized. Maybe at the time this could be considered goony, but honestly not really. Have you seen the comic books in the 90s, for example? By comparison, Mortal Kombat 2 is very tame, so let's skip ahead to Mortal Kombat 3, because here's when developers headed straight into gooner territory, head first. Kitana, Melina, and Jade are wearing what can only be described as fishnets around the cleavage, so not on the legs, instead on the boobas. But what can I call this besides fishnets? Maybe lacing, I guess? It's kind of like shoelaces, but around your booba? Anyways, whatever you choose to call it, it's way hornier than Mortal Kombat 2. Then we have Shiva, and oh my god, they went as far as possible with this character. Especially for the time period, Shiva is wearing next to nothing, literally as little clothing as you can possibly get away with on a character, which was likely only possible because Shiva's not a person, she's a claymation character, so as a result you can make her wear whatever without the risk of revealing any private parts. Since she's a claymation model, there are no nude parts to reveal by accident. Like mentioned earlier, comic books were already doing stuff like this. Vampirella likely inspired Shiva's look. Let's just be honest, these two outfits are borderline identical, and it's clear where the inspiration for Shiva's outfit came from. As you can see, Mortal Kombat 3 is absolutely when developers started pushing the envelope when it came to the horny levels. So next up, let's talk about Mortal Kombat 4, because here is where Melina's fetishization began. In every game previously, Melina dressed the same as Kitana, but that pattern ended with Mortal Kombat 4. Here she's showing way more skin than Kitana, which actually makes sense in the lore because Melina doesn't want you to look at her face. She's trying to distract you with the rest of her body. Yes, I'm not joking. That's the actual lore reason for why Melina dresses so sexy, which is terrible when you think about how she looks identical to Kitana, and most average people think she is Kitana. Since with her face covered, she's an identical twin, so the average person in Outworld or Edenia would see Melina dressing that way and just think, wow, Kitana's a slut lately. The princess woke up and just decided, I'm gonna wear next to nothing today. Straight up, if Melina started an OnlyFans, lots of people would think it's Kitana's body being posted up there. But anyways, next up is Deadly Alliance, which introduced a bunch of new characters, and I would argue Lee May's alternate is the gooniest by far. This lands you straight in horny jail, developers. What were you even thinking with this outfit? It's just stripper. It's just a pole dancer's outfit. There's no other way to describe this. You can't even say, oh, it looks kind of like a stripper, which was the case in Mortal Kombat 3, maybe Mortal Kombat 4. No, this time it's just literally literally what a stripper would wear, and there's no other justification, there's no other comparison. Then to make matters worse, her shoe size is included in the bonus material for whatever reason. Keep in mind, this doesn't happen for any other character, even the women. That's right, for some reason Li Mei is very fetishized in this game, which doesn't even line up with her lore whatsoever. In the story of Deadly Alliance, Li Mei is fighting on behalf of her people, allying with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi because they promised to liberate her people. So nothing about that screams, I'm gonna dress like a stripper, and yet here we are. All that being said, I like the pirate shoes. They look pretty neat. Bring this back in a future game for whatever reason. Because yeah, I just like how these shoes look, but everything else makes zero sense. Anyways, next up is Deception, and all of you watching know who I'm gonna pick already, but you're wrong about the costume. That's right, because I know you were thinking Mileena, since her Deception costume is infamous, or rather famous, because fans love this costume. And every time a new Mortal Kombat game launches, fans demand this Deception costume to come back. However, it's not the one I'm talking about for today's video. No. Instead, I'm looking at her alternate outfit, which leaves pretty much nothing to the imagination. Not only is Mileena showing tons of skin, but I can't even understand how this outfit stays together. Like, logically, it defies all laws of physics. There's nothing holding this costume together, and yet it persists. Very similar to how bees can fly despite their wings being too small, okay? Sometimes nature finds a way. Then, like mentioned earlier, this outfit for Mileena was featured in Playboy magazine, and I'm not even joking about that. In fact, several women from gaming at the time were featured in Playboy magazine, which is an adult nudie magazine for anyone watching who might be too young to even know what Playboy magazine is. Since it's been dead for a pretty long time now, the internet basically killed Playboy magazine. Anyways, next up is Mortal Kombat Armageddon, and here might be the most absurd outfit in all of Mortal Kombat, or at least in the top 5. I'm talking about Shiva. That's right, she's returned all the way back from Mortal Kombat 3 to reclaim her throne, or rather her cell, because straight to horny jail with this outfit. What is even going on? I've already ranted about it in a previous video, because what is even happening here? It's just to goon. This outfit is pure gooning material, which is fascinating on the one hand, because muscle mommies were not popular yet, so in many ways this Shiva costume is years ahead of its time. Anyways, I've made a full video about this costume already, so let's hop on to Mortal Kombat vs DC, and I guess I've gotta mention Catwoman, mainly because she's showing off the booba, which in the comics she doesn't do. Instead, Catwoman is always covered fully head to toe in skin-tight latex, which is still meant for gooning, don't get it twisted, but my point is, in the comics she's not showing cleavage, yet here in the Mortal Kombat game she absolutely is. Then real quick for an honorable mention, Sonya Blade is not wearing a thong because maybe developers thought that was too risque. However, if you look closely and zoom in, there's a tan line from where the thong was previously. That's right, they're still implying the thong, which I find hilarious. Keep in mind this game was rated T for teen, which is maybe why developers toned down the sexiness, but then you have arcade endings which showcase very almost naked women, so I've got no clue what was going on in this game. But oh boy, next up is Mortal Kombat 9. This is the horniest game ever made when it comes to the Mortal Kombat series. All the women especially are showing more skin than they ever have previously. Even characters like Sonya, who are almost never sexualized, definitely are in Mortal Kombat 9. Then you have Scarlet, who's arguably showing the most skin with her default outfit. However, it pales in comparison to Mileena's Flesh Pits costume, which I'm not even sure if YouTube's gonna let me show. Since essentially Mileena is wearing toilet paper around her naughty bits, and that's about it. Just imagine if a mummy woke up in the present day but was also very curvy. That's what Mileena looks like in Mortal Kombat 9 with her Flesh Pits costume. Which is why it may shock all of you watching to learn that I don't like this costume. I don't think it looks very good. It's also just not very creative. I'm okay with the horny, but it's also gotta be a good looking outfit for me. Anyways, next up is Mortal Kombat X, and we're about to get whiplash because this game pretty much removed the horny for the most part. There is a zero true gooner material in this game that I could find. Sure, Mileena's vampire costume is the most revealing she has, but not really goony to be honest with you. Surprisingly, it's Katana instead who's showing the most skin in my opinion, yet even so, this outfit's not very goonery. However, for a fun fact, the concept art was somebody ruined this design by putting an ugly leather sports bra on Katana. That's the only way to describe it, which was absent in the actual concept art, which keep in mind was the intended design, but somebody at NetherRealm, who I presume just hates fun and is allergic to all things fun, changed the design slightly and made it look way less appealing. Even if we take sex appeal out of the equation, I think this outfit just looks better than the censored version. Anyways, Anyways, next up is Mortal Kombat 11, which is also heavily censored compared to Mortal Kombat 9, unless we count the men, whose outfits are oddly unchanged from previous games, either because NetherRealm's biased or just doesn't think men can be sexy. I'm not sure which. But yeah, if I had to zero in on the gooniest outfits in this game, I would say it's Jade's witch costume, because it looks alright and does have some side boob, along with cleavage, and you get the idea, right? Sexy witch is always gonna be goony. But then we have Frost, an emphasis on the butt, because my goodness, she's caked up, and I've got no clue why. Listen, I'm not complaining, but it's funny in Mortal Kombat 11, where the censorship is at an all-time high, that Frost comes in here with a gigantic dumpy. Then finally, we have Kano's entire arcade ending, because for some reason, Sonya and Cassie are dressed so skanky here, and somehow it got past the censors at NetherRealm. I have this headcanon that there's a civil war at NetherRealm, like half the studio loves the sexy and half the studio hates it. And constantly they're trying to slip past each other and put what they want to in the game. Anyways, last but also certainly least, we have Mortal Kombat 1, where Melina is pretty much the only gooner outfit in the entire game, at least on the base roster. And honestly, it's not a terrible outfit. The trail in the back is a bit obnoxious, like there's just too much of it. Also, don't get mad at me, but Melina's boobas are too small in this costume. They've been shrunken down for this outfit specifically. If you look at her default costume, you'll see I'm not joking, okay? Default Melina has an easy double D size breast cup, but somehow they magically shrink down to like a large B cup size for her evil costume. And why did that happen? What evil sorcery has done this to us? Anyways, next up is Ashra Conan, or Asra as I should say, because those butt cheeks are definitely on display. Now this is a DLC costume. It's important to emphasize that. But that's all for today's video, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, especially if you want these sexy costumes to return in Mortal Kombat 13. Then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so we can reach 500,000 subscribers before the middle of this year. Alright everyone, make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.